Howdy, folks. Welcome back to this week's episode of Viva La Cats. I am your host, Justin Hiles, accompanied by my great friends, Joel Spencer and Steve Maurer. We are here to bring you the absolute best of the Bearcats every single week, and you can find us on Twitter at Viva La Cats, Viva La Cats Pod, as well as on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to our show. Make sure to check out the 1012 Network. That is the 1012 Network, bringing you all the best coverage of the Big 12, as well as some of the other peripheral sports and different teams. We've got some great drinks in the lineup today. I just realized both of you guys are actually backwards. There we go. Now your tags are correct.
I want to be Joel.
Now you're smart.
I wanted to be Steve.
Again, we have a really, really long rundown today, so we're going to try to keep everything light and move through it quick. I said that last week, and I did it by myself, and I still managed 50 minutes, so that just tells you how good I am at a filibuster. Gentlemen, let's dig right into it. We have a recap of the West Virginia game. We handed another freebie away. Sucks. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, I mean, the vibe in the stadium was just downright horrific. Gaining that momentum back in the second half, chipping away, clawing back into it. And from the stadium perspective, that final fumble, that giveaway by Sorsby, that was the run-in. They never showed the TV angle in the stadium. So to all of us, we thought it was an incomplete pass. They showed the head-on of his arm going forward. And to everyone in the stadium, that was our bread and butter. Like, it's an incomplete pass. We're going to continue to march down the field, and just immediate vibe killer. That broke any and all momentum in one that we felt like we were getting our way back into.
Yeah, my man Frank and I at PHX Bearcat on Twitter were both listening to the game on radio. So we both had I had to go out and do some errands during the day, so we were both trying to just enjoy the day and really get a chance to follow the game. And it seems like as soon as I stopped watching the game, the Bearcats immediately turned it around. And then I listened to Dan and Jim have possibly their saddest call of all time on the Sorsby, what ended up being a fumble. So, man, I wanted to ask you guys real quick, do you think I said this in our group chat on Saturday. I feel like Sorsby's been playing hero ball lately. I wonder if maybe the wide receivers haven't been as effective. Running game hasn't been as effective. Seems like the last two games we've kind of been a little bit off, and Sorsby has really tried to power us to wins, and we just have not been able to do it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the biggest thing that kind of to what you said that I've seen is it just feels like we're forcing it. On offense, it just feels like there's not really anything that is building a ton of momentum, and we just have to kind of try to make something happen. I think in this one, which I think Joel will probably talk about too, the whole Sorsby thing is there's three separate plays in this game where it's a boneheaded move. I think there's of course the first pick six, which is crazy. There's the late backwards pass, which unfortunately is just situational. In that moment, you're trying to get it forward, ends up not happening. And then there's the fumble where you're not protecting the ball. That's three separate plays that all turn into points for West Virginia that are the difference in this 7-point game. And I think when it comes down to Sorsby trying to force things, it's just not going to work. We have to try to find a different way to do it, or sacrifice the drive and try again later.
I mean, I didn't realize Will Levis still had college eligibility.
The surrender Cobra was out.
Hero ball is the perfect way to describe it, because absolutely we were forcing things. We got up 7-0. We were trying to continue to drive down. And then that fourth down conversion, the smart play to do is just either throw it out of bounds or hold it. But to try and do a little flip as you're falling over, you're never going to get your full power behind that. And of course, long ass run back for points. And same with go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. But the other thing too, with both of those, more of the 4th and 1 play, Scott, why are we I understand you're an offensive minded coach. You always believe in your offense. You want to go for it. But you had the momentum at that point, kick the field goal, go up by 2 scores, pin them deep, and let your the defense gave up 14 points. Like, I'm not really going to pin the field goal on the defense for giving it up, like for having to take over in their own territory. They only gave up 14 points. They did get burned on a couple deep balls by West Virginia's quarterback, but other than that, like, they played pretty well on Saturday. It seemed like Jared Bartlett was all over the place. He definitely like knew what was going on because he played against those same guys. I saw him early in the game, like pushing an offensive lineman. I was like, oh, Bartlett's got some edge today. But then I realized he was just laughing with the guy because he knows all those guys. So, but go ahead, Joel.
Oh, you're good. I mean, to your point, we definitely outplayed West Virginia. We outgained them in yards, 436 to 248. First downs was 24-9. Time of possessions, we beat them by 10 minutes. So what more can you ask for in a game aside from just those 2 turnovers that were so risky? You can kind of, like the fumble that led to the field goal, you can kind of forgive that one as a, okay, that's just fine. But the 2 big ones that resulted in touchdowns on the field in the same play, that's what you have to look at and say, young QB has to learn, Steve left us, has to learn, what to do in those situations. And sometimes the best thing to do is just go down with it. Like, because the alternative is so much worse than having to punt it away and trusting your defense.
Yeah. And I think too, one thing that like I look at with how Sorsby's whole situation in this game goes is dictated obviously by play calling with Satterfield. Steve, you mentioned the 4th and 1 play and why Satterfield's like going for that there versus going for the field goal. I'll say this much. I think if you look across the entire season, Sat, especially in the first half, has been generally pretty aggressive on those 4th and short situations, especially when it's inside your own territory. So it's one of those things that has generally worked out for us. And we've been good. I think we've been about 50% on those conversions over the season. So you can't be like, I think, too unhappy with that. It's just, that's again, a situational awareness thing with Sorsby where it's like, okay, we understand you're trying to make a play, but you got to go down. And that's a thing I think you're just going to have to chalk up to, like we've said already, young guy, sophomore, it's got to get more experience. It's going to understand that situation. It sucks though, too, because we said the same kind of thing after like the Texas Tech game when he threw, a boneheaded interception that ends up turning into some points, which ends up turning into a win for Texas Tech. You got to make sure in those situations, if you're the QB, that you're protecting the ball at all costs. And if it costs you a drive, it costs you a drive. If it's a turnover on downs, it's in your own territory. But whatever you do, don't give the other team the ball with room to run. And it's unfortunate, but it's just what happened.
I mean, you live by hero ball and you die by hero ball. And this game, we died by it. So
seen it time and time again.
Yourself become the villain.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people on Twitter and the socials after the game as well, just trying to chalk this up to another Satterfield disaster class. And this game was not on Satterfield. Certainly this was all on turnovers and the reactiveness of the team, of course. But one thing I do want to mention is Sat is now 3-5 versus our big rivals that we've played in the last 2 years: Miami, Pitt, West Virginia, and UCF. So losses to all of them, and 0-2 against West Virginia, which is the one in conference that reestablishes the Big East.
Yep. And I think that's also the tough part that you look at too with, that 3-5. If you turn half of those 5, so maybe you give yourself 2 more of those wins this year or last year, huge difference. Last year, you're a 5-win team. This year, you're already bowling. You probably have a win over Pitt, a Pitt that's ranked right now. You have a Pitt that looks really good. You have a win over West Virginia, which, doesn't mean too much for them or this rivalry, but is huge for your momentum going into the back half of the season. So I think those games are really pivotal. And again, these are things that we talked about weeks and weeks ago. You're going to measure Satterfield's success based on the games that matter to your fans. You got to get it done. You got to get it done at some point.
I'm really interested to see, Justin, I'm telling you now, I haven't told you it yet, but I'm telling you both now. I want to bring the Wes Miller thing that I did for football for basketball over to football and see what the grades are. I have a feeling they're going to be not very good because people just don't like this guy in general. But I think his season was looking fine up until that point. And I agree with you, Joel. Just to wrap it up, I don't think this is a Satterfield disaster class, but I think he's kind of got to save his quarterback from making those hero ball plays. And like, I definitely like, believing in your offense, going for it, wanting to succeed. But I think like right now, later on in the season, when you're just trying to like get that 6 win, ride the momentum, and just your defense has been pretty solid and they're playing a lot better now than they arguably did earlier in the season. I would ride them too.
Yep.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Justin.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think now is a good time just to like jump over into the Iowa State game. Go ahead.
This past weekend was the 100th anniversary of Nippert Stadium.
Yes.
We can't just gloss over that. That's also where these beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, no free ad Cincy Light cans.
We free ad for Cincy Light. We free ad for
Cincy Light. Absolutely.
D Fox, hit us up.
Yes,
maybe official beer of the podcast. You never know. So.
Saw him walking at the tailgate. Didn't say hi, but I saw him.
You guys know that. Do you guys remember when I used to call myself Jimmy Nippert on this podcast?
So of course,
we honored me on Saturday.
Yeah, the 100th anniversary of Steve.
I think your name in the group me still Jimmy Nippert.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
We still have Donnie Smokes in there too. So
yeah. And whenever you're in trouble, I call you James.
Yeah, James.
That's true.
Gamble. Nippert. Yeah,
it's actually funny for those of you who have been following the show for a while. We jokingly call Steve that quite often. Actually,
yes,
we refer to him as James, and it has nothing to do with Steve, but it is Steve. Yes, Iowa State taking a trip down to Ames, number 17 ranked. It is down.
Is it down technically?
Is it not lateral?
I think it's straight over.
I think it's up.
Is it actually up? God, geography.
Go ahead.
Anyways,
I'll fact check.
Taking a trip over to Ames on the highway, the truck stop trail. We're next stop, Iowa State. Bearcats have to get this game done if they want to get to. It is up. Okay, great. Thank you, Steve. They have to get this game done. Honestly, if they want to reconcile with the back half of this season, if they want to try to build some momentum, you've got to get bowling. By the time you hit a late stage TCU, I think it's going to be a pretty dicey situation. Not feeling good about Kansas State. Iowa State's been down 2 weeks in a row. I think this is the one that you got to get done. As terrible as it sounds of that game being your gotta have it game, they're down right now. You got to kick them while they're down. And Iowa State looks pretty good. They've been a great team thus far the entire year. But with traveling to Ames and what your trajectory is right now, guys, tell me what you think, is about not only this game, but what this game means for the back half of this season, this back third, I guess, fourth quarter. That's what we're in right now. We're in the fourth quarter of the season.
Look, I think Iowa State is in panic mode because they were in contention. They were, one of the top ranked teams, and losing 2 in a row, the wheels are falling off for the Cyclones. And I think they might be playing a little aggressive, maybe a little risky. And I think that after the Sorsby performance specifically, I think he's going to be playing conservative, trying not to lose the game, but how do you still go out and win the game? So I think that's where Satterfield's going to have to be aggressive, try and steal this one on the road. But absolutely, it's a game that you hate to say it, but you have to win, because if you lose this game going into Kansas State, there's potential to lose 4 games in a row to salvage the season in the last game home Thanksgiving weekend, where it's not normally a great fan attendance day. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a scary situation for sure. So you got to go in and try and handle business.
Real quick, Steve, before you say anything, I want to correct myself. I said number 17 Iowa State. They were number 17 last week. They are no longer number 17 because they dropped out of the rankings after their loss this week. Back-to-back, dropped from highest heights to just straight out of the top 25 in 2 weeks. Tough scene there. But again, we talked about this. Steve, tell me about this, because all offseason we said, worst case scenario, you get your 5 before you go to Boulder, and then you slide hard. And now that situation is looking very real. What are your thoughts?
So, this trip does not look as treacherous as it did 2 weeks ago before the Texas Tech game. And, seeing Iowa State, usually a pretty good defensively sound team, give up 35 to UCF and then 48 to Kansas. I think there was a defensive touchdown for Kansas last week, but either way, still not great for, Tyson Veit's former boss, John Heacock, the defensive coordinator at Iowa State. A little bit of a homecoming for Tyson Veit. So just a little quick plug. I did just join our buddy Clint Foster's Voice of College Football, the Biggest 12 podcast, and I was joined by Brownie from the Wide Right Natty Light crew. And he did not seem as optimistic with Saturday's game as I thought he might be, because he also respects Cincinnati, which is like, guys, I appreciate the respect, but I've been watching all 9 games. I don't know how much respect we deserve right now.
I mean, here's what I'll say. If you look at all of our games, Colorado's the only one where you can say they really weren't in it.
We just got out-talented.
And even the Colorado game wasn't necessarily a blowout. So
yeah,
Cincinnati's absolutely a competitive team that definitely has the firepower. My big thing is, can the defense hold up? Specifically, Justin, you mentioned it. Our defensive backs kind of got cooked on a couple big plays that allowed West Virginia to build onto that lead. And so Iowa State, go ahead.
So here's what our friend Brownie at Hoodger Burner on Twitter told me about this weekend, is that Iowa State's best starting tight end is still hurt and will probably not likely play this weekend. And apparently Rocco Beck is not really pushing the ball to outside to the numbers like Marchiol was last weekend, where we got beat a couple times on those deep balls. He's trying to stay within the numbers, doesn't really trust himself outside of the numbers. And to be honest, I think that's UC's weakest point, is like those width corners, on the outside there, unfortunately. So and I also think too, like Tyson Veit has seen this offense play, like in front of him. So Joel, I don't want to be optimistic. Like, the point spread's 9. You're going into Ames, which has pretty much been a really tough road environment ever since Matt Campbell took over there. And I don't really, I've said it the whole time that I think this is a loss. Even since the schedule came out, I've said this is a loss. So I'm preparing myself to be let down on Saturday. But is there any silver lining you're seeing by catching Iowa State right now?
Absolutely. I mean, kind of like we've all touched on, they're sliding, and I think they're in panic mode. And Sorsby, live by hero ball, die by hero ball. I think he's going to come out and say, okay, time to redeem myself. And let's see if the gunslinger has another one in him. I think it'd be awesome if we can steal this one and, get bowl eligible on the road in a very nasty environment. And I think there's definitely cause to be optimistic. And it's a night game, prime time. No waking up early for tailgate for everyone who's traveling out to Ames, but yeah, should be a good one all the way around. So just got to stay hopeful.
Yep. Yeah. And I'll add this for silver lining and the sort of optimistic side here. Like we've said, Iowa State's been down. I think your biggest advantage here is you have the opportunity to just be the team that really kicks their teeth in. It's a game at home for them. They expect to win it still, even though they've been on a slide. They expect to win it. You got to go in there and you got to create a tough environment for them. You got to make it difficult. And I think if you look at our games thus far this season, in the losses, of course, the Colorado one, like Joel mentioned, kind of got away from us. But, the West Virginia game, a few crappy turnovers, you play yourself out of it. But otherwise, you controlled and won that game if you didn't play yourself out of it. Pitt, you played yourself out of it. You were in control of that game and you lost it. In Texas Tech, you were in control of that game as much as you could be, but unfortunately, your 2 best running backs are out. So in those other 3 situations, you could have very easily won that game. This is a team that unfortunately we can talk about as a possibly 8-1 type of team, but instead we're at the 5-4. And I think that's what gives you so much upside, where though you have mistakes, though you have some flaws, you can correct those and you can win some big games in some big time moments. You just have to go in there and play a clean game. And I think they have the opportunity to do that. Will they execute? That's the question. But we will give our exact takes on whether or not they will execute in the back half with our Viva La Cash when we make our picks. Gentlemen, we've talked a bunch about football. It's time for more basketball. Of course, the season has started. The Bearcats off to a 2-0 start after they win against Morehead State overall, a very good win, very sound. However, before we go into any extra details, let's just talk about how that one ended, because I think that's not necessarily an elephant in the room, but it's the situation of the night, and very special ending for very many people in that arena. If we just give you the quick breakdown of what happened, the Bearcats were up. The Bearcats were up by a specific number. That was 30. The spread in this game was 27.5. 58 seconds to go. The over finally hit 138.5. Vibes are good for the people taking the parlay. You're good. If you bet singles on these, you're probably feeling okay. If you parlayed it, you're screwed. We missed a 1-and-1 with 30 seconds to go. Morehead State got a layup on the ensuing possession. And then finally, we missed another shot. 8 seconds left. We fouled. Morehead State missed the first free throw and then hit the second one to cover the spread by half a point. Game over. Killed the parlays. The arena goes nuts, and not in a good way. Gentlemen, for those of you who could hear it on the broadcast, because you could hear it if you weren't screaming yourself, just talk to me.
So wait, you could really hear it? Like I was driving home, like, so I want you to be my play-by-play, Justin. Like, was it like legit like screaming?
You could hear the groans. You could just hear people yelling, "Shoot the ball! Shoot the ball!" Because Rayvon had it in his hands, and you could hear it on the broadcast, of like just the audible groans and sighs, and everybody's just so pissed off. Because at the end, like, that's the thing in these non-conference cupcake games. You play for the win, you get the big win, and it's fun. You gotta cover. You gotta cover, guys. This is so early. You gotta cover, and unfortunately, it's just is what it is. But funny,
the alumni got to make their money back, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
My wife was at that game, and that was the mascot versus kids game. And she said that the Bearcat had to be restrained because he was being too mean to the kids.
So overall, just a lot of degeneracy from some adults.
So maybe the actual Bearcat players need the same intensity that the Bearcat brings, and don't let it be close. Wipe the floor with them.
Bearcat made his first half-court shot of the season last week. Like he's on a roll.
Yeah.
Also,
backwards.
Fantastic. Sidebar back to football. Bearcat did Blue Man Group this weekend at the West Virginia game with 2 additional cheerleaders directly behind them. They had the massive pipe drums in front of the student section that they were going with. He made it on no context college football, just a picture of the blue Bearcat head. So yeah, Bearcat is absolutely on a roll. He's gunning for another natty.
Yeah. Real quick, while we're on this game, before we move forward to a preview, I think the biggest thing with this and how this game went, as far as success goes for the Bearcats, 60% as a team from the field, 37.5% from 3, and 73% at the line. Gentlemen, we have crested the 70% mark. Not an easy feat for the Bearcats, for those of you who have followed those numbers for quite some time. Tied in rebounds, 30 and 30 for each. Offensive rebounds. This is the interesting storyline, which we will crack open this conversation here with this. Out rebounded on the offensive glass 11-5. Not really expecting that for the Bearcats, especially against a team like this. However, a very key piece missing. Hopefully one to return sooner than the other, but a very key piece on the offensive boards missing. Dan Skillings, of course, this week just had surgery on his knee. Hopefully will return probably somewhere either right at or in the week or 2 following the shootout, which is going to be a massive loss in some of those early non-conference games. However, I think it really was interesting in this whole game to watch how the game was flowing very differently from the first one without Dan Skillings on the floor. I wouldn't say that any part really got away from them, but different. This game felt very different. Did either of you guys feel that? And what did you really see that, that part of Dan Skillings being missing from the floor? How did that make you feel?
I mean, there was definitely an energy missing. The the team has so many good basketball players, but I think Skillings is kind of the lifeblood. He's the glue guy, not just personality wise, but also on the court. He's someone who can do it all. So you rely on him to kind of be the pace setter. So absolutely you feel that, and you hope that this team can figure it out without him.
Yeah, he seems like just like you said, Joel, like the vibes guy, the energy guy. Like, and he just brings a smile to my face. He just brings genuine joy to me watching him play. And it is sad to know that he won't be back likely but around Big 12 time. So I feel like you could have used him in that Xavier game. But just looking at the box score, I do kind of like the lineup of Seamas, Jizzle, and Hickman, and Bendago and Mitchell. Like, that's a smaller lineup that can definitely like put up some buckets. And Hickman wasn't really feeling it, on Friday night. But there's going to be games where they're going to need him, and hopefully it's just a thing where he just kind of starts feeling his rhythm more. I think his swagger is undefeated, which is a good thing, because like you need I think with Skillings out, like I think Hickman can kind of take that role of being kind of like the swagger guy on the court, being able to bring that to the Bearcats. But I do think it's not great to be missing both Day and Skillings this early in the season. And, you're probably going to be until February until you really feel confident in your rotation that you have for the postseason, which again, hopefully we make it there, God willing. But it's not a great start to already have two guys out for undetermined amounts of time.
Yes, and two guys that played over 20 minutes last season too, like two significant contributors. This is no 5-10 minutes off the bench. Like, this is a really pivotal set of guys that you have here. One thing I wanted to mention too, you mentioned the part on Hickman. I think even though he didn't necessarily have it going offensively, guys, one of the most insane blocks I think we'll get to see all year. Absolutely got up there and said no. The comb over says no. Just amazing work. And again, this is a thing that we've talked about and we'll talk about time and again, is just the hustle plays. You got to make those. Those are the games those are the moments that are huge and the momentum shifters in some of the bigger games where the game is tight. Of course, this one we'd already blown open, but you got to have those type of effort plays. And I love to see it this early, especially in games where, there's not a whole lot on the line for the Bearcats. It's nice to see that early. One thing I want to mention too, when you mentioned the box score, 5 guys in this game with 12 or more points, which is really nice to see from the Bearcats. The interesting one though, out of all of this, which I want to know what you guys think about this guy. Off the bench, Arrington Page, 13 points, 5 boards. How are we feeling about that? Because I think this is the thing that I'm going to ask you guys later. I actually have a whole sheet that I made with prop bets for the entire season that we're not going to go into today. I'm going to make you fill out and we'll talk about it next week because it's long. However, I want to know, do you think that he has a legit chance to be like the 6th man? Because you consider Day, you consider all the offensive talent on this roster. He's probably the first guy that you're going to rotate off the bench when it comes to bigs. And so I think that there's a legit chance that he could be that really pivotal 6th guy in a way that you might expect from Day, but maybe he finds some more time in this roster than maybe we expected this early on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anytime you talk about whether it's tournament play or the big matchups, it's always about your depth. If you've got your starting lineup playing the majority of those minutes, and then as soon as they're subbed out, if the opposing team's going on, 10-0, 15-2, those types of runs, you need that depth to really maintain your presence in any game. And I definitely think that he has that ability to keep us in a lot of games. I think this team's just really, really deep with talent this year, which is something we're very fortunate to have.
Yeah, I mean, lower level of competition, but you do like to see 7 of 8 from the free throw line. A man after our hearts,
Yes.
making all those free throws. It actually decent free throw percentage tonight on that night too, 73%. Something you like to see. Justin, maybe we might have to bring back the dart meme again this year.
Oh, it's happening for sure. Every game,
Whenever we do
that
something
happens.
right. And then but again, it's Morehead State, so we got to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But I do want to say though, like Tyler Betsy's been getting some NBA press, from scouts, and like I would love to see just another young player like Jizzle did last year just pop off this year for us, and then have him come off the bench, drain a couple threes. Really, like I don't know if he'll be playing 18 minutes a game come Big 12 time, but if he's good enough, I want to see him out there, and he's got a good, like, I like seeing him shoot. And I think if you get him open enough and you bring him in as your 6th or 7th guy, when you've already got like CMOS and you've got guys to cover, and Tyler Betsy's just out there like on the perimeter wide open, taking some threes, I'll give him that shot all day. Like I'll let him take that. I'm usually, freshmen are not really given that opportunity to really go out and shoot like that. And I love seeing Betsy like step up early. I mean, only 7 points in this game, but I really like what I've seen so far from him. And the fact that he's getting NBA praise too just validates that opinion.
Yeah, I want to jump on that too. Just saying the fact that like this guy is tall too, like 6'7", 6'8". He has this reach advantage that you've seen on so many of the guys that he ends up getting matched up against, which is huge. Like that's a thing at that position that we've kind of lacked. And I feel like traditionally the Bearcats have been undersized, especially when it's coming off the bench. And so to have that there and have his shot be so pure and so smooth and silky at this point in his career as a freshman, I think is huge. And I think, like you said, it only adds to that NBA press that he's getting. I mentioned the thing on Page. The other thing I want to just talk about real quick before we move on, Ben Dago in this game too. I think like the defensive effort is 100% there. We've talked about this before. 5 rebounds is not going to cut it when it comes to the Big 12 play. If you've got a 7-footer out there, you've got Aziz, you've got to go and get those rebounds. However, the defensive effort on this, 3 blocks in this game, looks really, really nice, as well as the 12 points. He started off, I think, 4 for 4, 5 for 5. It's nice because you're seeing him making some strides. And those sort of little like pick and pops, some of the alley-oop plays, he's looking really good in those, and he's looking good off the screen. And I think that is a thing that you're seeing him grow. And he's going to have to be that pivotal player at the 5 in order to make this whole system work.
Yeah, it's funny when you think about postseason and how teams are successful. You always have those teams that have the 7-footer. You look at Edie, you look at Taco Fall, you look at these teams that, people always say, oh, we'll watch if they go on a run. But when you pair a 7-footer with a team that can shoot the lights out and is hitting field goals and is getting the effort against non-conference teams to, dive after balls and put up blocks, this feels like a special season that could be brewing. And of course, everyone knock on the wood of your desks right now. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, with Aziz, with all of our big men, and then the amount of shooters that we've got, it feels like West put something special together. Granted, once again, grain of salt, 2 games into the season, but we'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. Gentlemen, speaking of seeing what happens, we have 2 games coming up within this next coming week for basketball. Tonight, for those of you who are listening on release date of Wednesday, the 13th, we are playing Nicholls.
It's Friday, Justin.
Friday?
That's the women's basketball team that's playing on Wednesday. So we'll talk about them later. But
there it is.
Nicholls on Friday. Cats are favored by 19 on Bart Torvik. Nicholls is 193 on Ken Pom. Any guesses as to where the Bearcats currently sit right now on Ken Pomeroy's rankings?
We were at 15 last I saw. I'd assume we moved a little bit. I'm going to say 14.
I was going to say 12.
Lucky number 13, baby. Taylor Swift's lucky number. So.
Right in between us.
Yep. So we've got that one. And then also this is part of the Twyman Stokes Classic, by the way, a rare road game in an MTE for Cincinnati. They were playing at NKU next week. We are going to be coming to you after that game. So watch out for us next week. Cats are favored by 9 on Bart Torvik, and NKU is 171 on Ken Palm. So, I'm interested to see what happens in that in those two games there. I'm looking forward to watching that NKU game, hopefully like all 40 minutes of it this time. So fingers crossed.
Over under on minutes spent in blackout mode in the first or second half of this game?
Depending on how bad the score is, maybe more than 30 for me, depending on how I want to feel coming on this podcast if we lose.
Whole different type of blackout. Gentlemen, let's also add this to Nicholls 193 in Ken Palm. 1-2 record thus far this year, and their losses coming from New Mexico and South Owl. 14-point game and a 9-point or 7-point game there. So some tighter games against lesser opponents. Again, should be a hopefully large spread for the Bearcats in this one. But Joel,
if you want to see these two teams play against each other, NKU is actually hosting Nicholls on Thursday night. So
how interesting.
So that'll be a little test of the the old ESPN Plus. And I lied, actually. Well, go ahead, Joel.
I was just going to say props to whoever scheduled Nicholls' season. Like, the amount that they just saved on travel.
Oh, yeah.
Play back-to-back nights.
Moneyball.
Yeah, exactly, And then, actually, boys, the game for UC and NKU next week is on the new, it was Bally Sports Ohio on NKU's website, but it's now FanDuel Sports Ohio, which the Reds are no longer on. So check your local listings. I don't know how we're going to be able Justin, I don't know how you and I are going to be able to watch that game.
I don't think
did see this today. I did see this today. I think it was from, I may be correctly quoting our friend Russ Heltman. I believe this game, even though it is on the ACC network thing that was happening for one of the games later, and the FanDuel network for this game for NKU, I think both of them are going to be on each of those networks and then also be on ESPN Plus.
Okay, good.
So we should be able to watch all the games still without issue.
Whew, I got worried.
My final thought is, while we're still early enough in the season to where we can say, these are the games that you shouldn't have to worry about, take care of business, get out of there healthy, get out of there with a impressive win by whatever X amount it needs to be. I saw some NKU people treating this as a rivalry game and calling this a rivalry game. So let's just go shut that down.
Yes, agreed.
Put them in their place.
Quick correction myself. I was correct on what I mentioned, but it was the wrong two games. The Georgia Tech game, which is why the ACC sounds weird. The Georgia Tech game is also supposed to be on ACC Extra, but also ESPN Plus, as well as ESPN Plus and FanDuel for the NKU Cincy game.
Gotcha.
That was what we were trying to figure out. But, gentlemen, Bearcats keep climbing the rankings. 17 feels good. Vibes are good. We're feeling awesome about how this team is performing thus far this year. But guess what? There's some other people that are performing really well this year, and they're bringing us some absolutely lovely merch. Steve, would you like to take the helm this week from our good friends, Charlie?
Sure.
Hustle?
Joel, do you want to take the helm?
I don't know what I'm supposed to read, so if you give me a script, I sure can. But
well, Steve, you're going to take it. We'll prep him later.
Yes, that's right. We'll get you next week. Okay, friends, listen up. Here I am to bring you the gospel of Charlie Hustle. So, we've got these two shirts on my left and on my right of, the Bearcats and some other team that wears red that we happen to be playing this weekend. You can get both of these lovely shirts and many more at your friends charliehustle.com. They are carrying some of the best vintage college gear in the game. I love wearing my Charlie Hustle shirts around town. I'm covering up this logo that I'm wearing because it's not a Charlie Hustle shirt, and I apologize. Just coming home from work, I maybe I should be bold enough to wear my Charlie Hustle shirts at work because they're just that good. They're just that fresh. They're vintage made fresh. So go ahead and go to charliehustle.com. Use the promo code 101215 for 15% off your first order at the Charlie Hustle website. And also, if you're thinking about making a trip to Kansas City for the Big 12 tournament this year in March of 2025, guess who's going to be there? That's right, your friends at Charlie Hustle. They were partnered with the Big 12 last year. They were in Kansas City last year. They're based in Kansas City. They've got some great Ted Lasso merch as well. They've got some great Travis Kelce merch if you're willing to wear some Kansas City football team colors or Iowa State colors. So you know what? Let's just let the product sell itself. Head on over to charliehustle.com. Use that promo code 101215 for 15% off your first order at Charlie Hustle. Vintage made fresh. Justin, the mute button got you again.
No, we've been got. We've been got.
You've been had, sir.
Once a week. Thank you for the wonderful ad read. Gentlemen, it's time to make some money. But guess what? We don't have quite the same lineup that we always do. We got a lot packed in the show. We still got a lot to cover. So we're going to make this quick. Let's get some money, boys. Let's get some money.
Hammer the cats. Hammer the cats.
Hammer the frickin' cats.
That's how you're going to earn some money.
This week, of course, now that we're in basketball season, we have some extra lines to take. We will start with football, however. Iowa State, 9-point favorites on the road for the Bearcats, at home in Ames. Bearcats going to have to go on the road. Game total 53.5. How are we feeling about both of those lines? Got to tell me this point in the year. Joel, hit me first.
I think that it's weird. For Iowa State, you look at a tale of two defenses from how they started this year to how they've played recently. And I think when you look at the Bearcats coming off a week where, like you said, Steve, they really only gave up 14 points, granted to a lesser West Virginia team compared to Iowa State. So that's a really accurate number. I think it could go either way, but of course it's never fun to root for the under. So I'll go over on this one.
You're going over, and what do you got for the spread?
You got to go Cats. There's no way it's going to be a 9-point differential for either team, but definitely Cats to cover.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of wonder if this originally was at 6, and then it got bet all the way up to 9, and I don't really know if you should have enough confidence right now in Iowa State for them to be getting 9 points, even if it is at home at Ames, where they've been drinking Busch Lights since about like 6 a.m. Listen to what I said there, Cyclone Larry. And they've been having their breakfast pizza and walking across their bridges and drinking their Busch Light. It's going to be a raucous environment, but as our friend Hoodger Burner told me on the show that I was just on, Justin, if the Bearcats go up by 10 or 14, apparently the Iowa State fans are just going to walk out, even if it's the first half. Like, people are just going to leave. So I think it's malpractice to not take Cincinnati +9 or +8.5, whatever the number is. I would take it. And Joel, I love your reasoning there on it just being just a drunk, like classic Big 12 game at night. I think this number was hit the last time the Bearcats played at night in both of their road games this year. So I like that over too. Justin, will you be differing from us, or should we all, you know what? I think we're going to put out a Bearcats double parlay of basketball on Friday night and football on Saturday.
I think that'd be beautiful. I do think that'd be beautiful. However, gentlemen, I am going to take the under in this game, following suit with Joel. I'm going to take the Bearcats to cover, as we all should. However, this is the one that we haven't actually spoke of, is who are you taking for the money line? Because I think for the first time, unfortunately, I'm going to rip this Band-Aid off. It's going to be the first time this entire year that I don't pick the Bearcats. They're going to cover, but I don't think they're going to win this game.
You know what? I'm okay with you not taking the Bearcats, because that means that they are going to win. Because just like in fantasy football, the 1 week you bench someone, they score 25 points on your bench. So the 1 week you don't take them, it's a lock.
You're ruining the way this works, Joel. You can't speak of it.
The 1 week I didn't take the Bearcats last year was when they beat Houston.
Yeah, that's true. So, that is very true. When he finally gave up, that's when they finally showed their worth.
Yeah. So, I mean, hey, November games, the Bearcats have showed their mettle late in the season. So hopefully they can do it again this year.
Okay. So officially, Joel, Steve, money
Cats.
line? Cats?
I'm wearing them across my heart right now.
Fair enough. I'll take the sacrifice for all of us. Okay. Basketball. Steve, you got us some lines. Please.
Yes.
Or
Like I
start with
mentioned earlier, the Nicholls game. Your Cincinnati Bearcats are favored on Bort Torvik right now. Lines do not come out usually for college basketball games until 24 hours before. But Bart Torvik has the Bearcats as 19-point favorites against Nicholls on a Friday night. Are you backing the Cats to cover 19, or are they going to have a bad beat once again?
Nah, 19 seems way more doable. They'll hit
Hammer
that.
the Cats. That's such an easy cover.
Yeah.
Such an easy cover.
Nicholls likes to have some high-scoring games, so maybe the defense is a little bit lax. They did just play against the Mississippi University for women, so we'll see if that translates at all. Maybe the Bearcats can get a transitive win against I will against that school. So I will also be taking Nicholls. Yes, Joel.
Joel's confused.
Yes, go ahead.
We can still play interesting teams this modern day and age.
Okay.
There you go. Hammer the Cats. Hammer the Cats.
Okay. All right. Hammer the Cats.
Is there a game total for that by chance?
Let me see. And while I'm talking about that, so we've got Cats. Excuse me. Do some quick math here. 84-64. So my Cincinnati math tells me that is 148.
64, 84. Yes, correct. 148.
148.
Dat math. Yes.
I'd say we win 100-50. So give me the over. Cats me over, parlay it. I'm a really easy bettor when it comes to the Bearcats. How about you guys?
If considering that Nicholls apparently likes to score some points, and the Bearcats also like to score some points, but their defense is going to be prevalent enough, I will say, of course, they will cover. But you know what? I took the over last week, and we sweated out a 138.5. I'm going to take the under on this one.
Okay. Boys, real quick, who's going to finish in second in the Twyman Stokes Classic? Because we all think the Bearcats are going to finish in first, right? The NKU Nicholls game. Northern Kentucky is favored by 6 on Bart Torvik with a total of 75-69. Once again, doing math, that tells me the total is 144. So, who you got? You got Nicholls. I don't even know what their mascot is, or you got the Norse. Joel, hit me.
Give me Nicholls.
Nicholls. All right, let's go.
I'm absolutely taking Northern Kentucky in this, only because they lost at FSU and at number 14 Purdue, and they didn't let them get blown up. This team is booty cheeks on record, actually might be okay, and might give us a little bit more of a run for their money. So I'm going to take the Norse on that one.
Joel, I'm going to ride with you for one reason and one reason only. I just learned Nicholls' mascot. They're the Colonels. You're telling me the Colonels aren't going to win in Kentucky? Come on now. Give me Colonel Sanders and Nicholls against the Norse.
Justin, you are our sacrificial lamb this week.
That is true. That is fine. I'll take it. I understand.
The Colonels in Kentucky, Justin.
Oh, Steve, hit us with the last one with the NKU spread, please.
Yes, of course. So to finish in third place, Northern Kentucky will host Cincinnati on Tuesday. The Bearcats on Bart Torvik are favored by 9 points. I am actually going to say that I don't know if the Bearcats will cover this spread, just because this is our first real road test of the year. We did not pass this test the last time we visited Truist Arena or whatever it's called now. So I am, even though we have the best home record in a season in that arena, I don't know if we're going to cover. I think we'll win, but 9 points seems to be a lot in your first road test, especially considering we took Howard took us to overtime last year.
That's very fair. Like I said, I think they're a good team. I think they're better than the record shows. However, I think you just got to cover, so I'm going to take them to cover. Hammer Cat.
Ain't no way they're staying within 9 points of these Cats.
Okay. All right. Northern Kentucky is comfortably third in the Twyman Stokes Classic.
And was there a spread on that?
The point spread is 9.
Or sorry, not spread. Total. Sorry.
The total, while I look it up.
More Steve Cincinnati math.
Yeah,
my bold prediction for NKU, and I am prepared to eat my words if necessary, but I think we'll be up by 9 after 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's
all
fair.
right.
And it never goes under that?
No.
So our total is 142 for this game. So
142.
I see a little bit more of a rock fight. So I'm going to take the under, and I'm going to take the Norse +9.
I'm gonna take under, but hammer cats. So fair
Okay.
enough.
All right.
Fair enough. All right. Joel, under or over?
Over.
Okay, he's got the over. They're scoring a lot of points.
The Cats are vengeful.
Cats are vengeful. They're going to score a shit ton of points. Cats by 90, baby. All right, gentlemen, we still have not even got to our Bearcats basketball draft. So let's aim for finishing this whole thing out in 20 minutes. I think it's possible. Here's what we're going to do. Real quick, I'm going to recap y'all because y'all missed last week, but you're back this week. And guess what? Here's the update for the Big 12 head-to-head. Gentlemen.
Back to football. Back to football.
Back to football.
Football.
Here's the update.
Football.
My team, as it currently stands on the season, 42-25 in the Big 12 head-to-head draft. Y'all, 36-30. Wolf. Wolf dog.
You're using that term "y'all" very generously because I had no say.
Mo got lumped in on that one.
He did get lumped in on that one, unfortunately, but he will have a chance to redeem himself tonight in the new Survivor draft. Not actually a Survivor draft. Yeah, I don't know. BYU and Arizona State, my two of my last 3 picks, paying dividends by far. But also I picked Utah and Oklahoma State. So that should tell you enough about how my whole entire team went. The bottom went up and the top went so far down. So very interesting draft. We'll see how this finishes out. Still a chance possibly that you guys might be able to claw your way back in it before the end of the season. Oh, gentlemen, Big 12 head-to-head, we've got some awards to give out. Starting off with our Charlie Hustler of the Week. Joel, who was it?
It was our soon-to-be good friend, Iowa State quarterback Rocco Becht, threw for nearly 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. NFL stat line there, but did fall this week to Kansas of all teams, but still put up a damn near impressive performance. I couldn't remember how to say that. I only wanted to say the P, pressive performance.
Pressive. He didn't win, so it wasn't impressive. It was just pressive.
Just pressive.
Speaking of pressive, let's talk about some pressive finishes. Gentlemen, the Aspirinaholic of the week. You just I'm going to ruin it and spoil it. Spoiler alert. The last 3 options, our last 3 awards this week all go to one game because it was just that crazy. BYU, Utah, U's down. Collective, please, gentlemen, do it with me. Do it with me. 3, 2, 1, down. Yep, let's go. Put them down. Put them down. Cougs up, baby. We rise. We shout. Gentlemen, fantastic finish to this game. You could not write the script any better. Utah had a lead going into the 4th quarter. BYU was not able to muster much after a terrible clock management situation at the end of the first half. Couldn't really find much. Finally put it all together when the moments mattered. You get down to the end of the 4th quarter. Utah has the believe signs out. They are fully packed in this stadium. Eccles is going nuts. They're ready to just finish off the Cougs. But guess what? The Cougars never die. Not once, not one single time this season did they die. When everything seemed bleak, they found a way to win, and they did the most miraculous thing possible. Guess what? Some calls that people wanted to say were a problem. Guess what? It was a hold. Except at Utah. You suck, and you will continue to suck, and we hope that you suck your way all the way out of the conference because you don't belong in the Big 12 anymore. Bearcats up, Cougs up, Utes down. Beautiful ending to this game. Hits the game winner. Crowd goes silent. People are throwing shit on the field. Impeccable way to send Utah in their worst season in so many years on record. Just to send them down. And who better to do it than in the Holy War on the road, the BYU Cougs, to save the 9-0 season. Just the script is amazing. Absolutely beautiful.
All I'm going to say is just wait till Cam Rising comes back next year. That'll be our year.
You just wait. You
just
just wait. Steve, who else is waiting? Because somebody else is waiting, and they might be the bozo of the week. They might be waiting for somebody to, I don't know, maybe make a change in the results of this game. Tell us more, please.
This man is $40,000 lighter in his pocket, and his name is Mark Harlan, and he is our bozo of the week for acting a fool post game. One, he got his team a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct at the end of the game. Two, he held a finger in front of the ref on national television, treating him like he was a little child. And three, he said, "We were excited to be part of the Big 12, but tonight we're not." And like, God, like how much of a sore loser can you sound? You know, Mr. Harlan, I do hear that the Pac-12 needs one more team. So, and Pac-12 leadership, I propose to you a trade. Utah for Boise State, straight up. Who says no? Who says no? Please tell me who says no. They'd be so happy to be back in the Pac-12. They got a local rival in Utah State, and we get Boise State. We get to travel to Idaho every other 4 years, whatever. Give it to me right now. I want Boise in the blue turf in this conference right now.
I believe.
Yes.
I believe it can happen. It can happen.
Also, Mark Harlan, you're just an idiot, and you're. I just hate you. I despise you. I loathe you. I can't wait till you get fired.
You're a clown, absolute embarrassment to this conference, to your program, and to the entire state of Utah. Get out. Go. Like if I were the president of that university, I would have been so embarrassed that I would have just like made a statement on that. I'm surprised I haven't seen anything about that. But Utah fans, keep whining, keep crying. We're just going to keep drinking those tears. Joel, again, we already said this, most watchable game. It's
the Holy War.
It is what it is. The fourth quarter of this game.
it has to be the Holy War. I mean,
okay.
Utah scored all of their points in the second quarter, went up 21-10. You thought, holy shit, like this game's about to turn into a barn burner. And no, the Cougs, like you said, clawed their way back in it and won in the last couple of minutes. And, whether you want to chalk it up to controversy or not, but yes, go ahead, Jimmy.
Were either of you guys awake for like the final drive of the game?
Yes.
You were, Justin. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm also offering myself as the bozo of the week, at least for the three members of this podcast, because I was watching the game on my phone in bed. I see the 4th and 10 happen. They get sacked. I'm like, okay, game's over. Hit the X on the phone, turn over. I wake up the next morning and Justin texts me, "Man, what a win for the Cougs. They pulled it out." I'm like, "Are you what?" So I literally went to my ESPN app at about 7:30 in the morning, watched the last 14 minutes of because that's how long those last like 150 on the clock took, about 14 minutes. So, and I watched all of that and I was stunned. I was like, what? They came back and won? And I was texting our boy Donnie Smokes too. I was like, man, BYU losing is rough for the conference. And then he texted me too. He's like, oh shit, they pulled it out. I was like, what? So I was the bozo who was like East Coast time, like, tough loss for BYU, you know, they'll drop in the rankings. And then to my surprise, I wake up and they had won. So it was like waking up on Sunday at church, you know, just maybe the lights of Mormon God are shining on my shoulders.
Guys, I've said this all season long. BYU is just fun to watch and they're exciting. I've said it multiple weeks and I'm going to keep saying it now because it sticks. This has been my adopted second team when the Bearcats are just not pulling through. BYU's finding the magic this season and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Ride the Cougar train.
Always choose a second team.
Always choose a second team. This
Always
was a great one to choose.
Team to root for.
Yep.
This was a great one to choose. And guess
speaking
what?
of choosing teams.
Yes. Speaking of choosing teams, it's time. An hour in. Guys, we got time on the clock. Here we go. We're just going to get right into it. The Big 12 hoops head-to-head draft. We did this for football. We're doing it now for basketball. I hope you gentlemen have your draft sheets up. Again, I sent you the screenshot earlier, so you'll just have to look at exactly what I sent. Here's the jurisdiction. How are we going to decide who's 1, 2, and 3? If nobody can decide, I will roll a die. I will roll a D20 in honor of the great game of D&D. Gentlemen, I don't even know how to do this. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to roll a D6. Joel, You're 1 and 2. I'm going to be 3 and 4. Steve, you're going to be 5 and 6. I'll just see what it is. I'm going to be completely honest. 4. Okay, I guess I have 1.
I didn't see the roll. I didn't see the roll. Show me the roll.
You're not going to be able to see the roll. Okay, here. How do we want to do this? I'm
Just
telling
go,
you.
just go. Justin, Steve, Joel.
Okay.
Justin, Steve, Joel. Is that fair? Is that what we want to do?
Snake it. Let's do it.
Okay.
All
Justin,
right, let's
Steve,
go quick.
Joel.
Quick.
Okay.
Speed it up.
Here's how it goes. We have the S tier, A tier, B tier, and C tier. There are 4 teams in each. Across the lane, we have Kansas, Baylor, Iowa State, and Houston. There will be a ghost team. The rules of this draft are all 3 of us will pick a team in each tier. We will end up with 4 total teams. There will be 4 total teams left over. The 4 total teams that are left over will go into a ghost team. If your team at the end does not beat the ghost team in win total, which is what we're measuring this entire thing off of, you will have to do a suicide, the most classic basketball punishment. You will have to do a suicide for every single win that you are behind the ghost team at the end of the season. And the winner at the end of the season will get a Charlie Hustle shirt from our great friends at Charlie Hustle. How's that sound? Great. The other 2 gents will have to split it. They'll put it together and we'll get that shirt shipped off to you. Winner's choice. Gentlemen, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
For the first pick in this year's Big 12 head-to-head draft, I'm going to take Iowa State.
Okay. Fair enough.
Iowa State.
With the second pick in the 2024-2025 Viva La Cats Big 12 basketball teams draft, I'm going to take Houston.
No.
Even though they already have a loss, I'm going to take Houston. Joel, you've got the next 2 picks, my friend.
I mean, oh man, give me Kansas and give me the Cats.
Okay. Baylor goes on the ghost team. Justin, go ahead.
Baylor's on the ghost team. Are you guys writing this down?
I am.
Somebody is? Okay, great. Cats are off the board, which means that this might sound like a interesting pick for this year. I'm really liking Coleman Hawkins. Dude was a stud. As much as I hated him at Illinois, I think Kansas State might be interesting this year. I'm going to take Kansas State.
Justin leads off with Farmageddon. Justin is very pro farmer. I love that. I am obligated, just like I did in the Big 12 football draft, to pick my wife's alma mater here. Bear down, Arizona, bear down, red and blue. I'm picking Arizona, and the ghost team will get Texas Tech. So I get the next pick, and I am going to go with TCU. Jamie Dixon, give it to me. Let him cook another season. See what happens to you. I'm taking Arizona. I'm taking TCU.
Steve, I hate to break it to you, but it's the snake draft, so 1 comes back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
1, 2,
Did I? Oh,
1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
Oh,
back to 1, 2, 3.
Okay,
And
Do it, Justin. Do it, Justin. Do it, Justin.
I'm going to take TCU. No, I'm not going to take TCU despite you. I'm not going to take TCU. I'm actually going to roll with the Cougs on this one. Very interesting team. Has a lot of upside. Could also have a lot of downside. But
guy doesn't understand a snake draft. I can't believe it. Okay.
Which actually this would put Steve at the next one. So
yes.
Mr.
So then I will end up taking my TCU Horned Frogs and Jamie Dixon.
Fair enough.
Joel?
I'm mad.
For reference, he's picking between Arizona State and UCF right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's a tough one. Be smart, Joel.
Arizona State just played tough at the Kennel on Sunday, Joel. Just hung tough with Gonzaga when Baylor could not. So Ghost team is already losing out on that one.
Yeah, I can't root for Orlando. Give me Arizona State.
Okay, all right. The Devils.
Good man, you just screwed all of us. UCF might actually be a decent team this year. I don't know. He's picking Arizona State. Joel.
I was leaning towards them too, but oh well. I can't root for Orlando. You know who I can root for? You know who I can root for?
Who?
Give me West Virginia.
Oh,
Virginia.
okay.
Perfect.
All right. Let's go Mountaineers. Let's go drink some beers, baby. Yes,
Yep.
sir. I'll send you this hat, Joel, because I don't need it anymore. Because they beat me. Justin, for my next pick, your boy is going to go with I'm I am actually going to go with Oklahoma State. New coach there, maybe some new vibes there. I like the orange and black color scheme. Hopefully, we're a little bit better than last year, Cowboys. So go Pokes. Maybe I can select JC Hoyt as well, the Oklahoma State women's basketball coach too. Joel, look her up. But I'll take the Pokes.
Guys, we are in the final two, and I have to pick between two of the bottom two teams in the media polls. So far, I'm 1-0 in this situation this season. However, got to leave one to the ghost team. Between Colorado and Utah, I don't like either of these choices, not going to lie. Really not even liking picking that one seed. My gut is telling me to pick and leave Utah for last. However, it looks like it might be a rivalry season, boys. We're taking Farmageddon and the Holy War.
Well, good for you, Justin, because you just selected the Madsen brothers. So, I'm happy for you.
Former Bearcats playing together again in their final senior season. We'll see how it goes, and that's exactly why I picked the difference, because I'd rather go with something I know than nothing that I know about Colorado. That solidifies our Big 12 head-to-head draft. The ghost team consists of the following. Steve.
Baylor, Texas Tech, UCF, and Colorado. So, sorry, y'all. I hope y'all go winless for the rest of the season.
We all hope you go winless because none of us want to do suicides. But that is the punishment for this year's draft. I think that does it, gents. I think that does it. We just got to go.
Let me read off the other teams real quick.
Yes.
Joel's team is Kansas, our Bearcats, Arizona State, and West Virginia. Justin's team, Iowa State, Kansas State, BYU, and Utah. Got Farmageddon, and you've got the Holy War in there. And then I have Houston, Arizona, TCU, and Oklahoma State. I kind of like my team, fellas. I got to say, I kind of like my team.
I think there's a case. I think there's a very easy case for Joel doesn't know ball for picking Arizona State over UCF.
Well, Joel, you have the only team in the nation to have two really high quality wins so far this year. So
that is true.
Props to you. Home win against North Carolina, and they just beat Michigan State tonight. Unranked, but still Michigan State.
Yeah. UCF had that upset against Texas A&M that I completely forgot about.
It's all right. It's just one game. Texas A&M might be bad.
We'll see.
We'll see. Gentlemen,
see.
This is the 4x4x4x4. We will see what the results are at the end of the season. And remember, the most important part of this is this does include the postseason. So even though this might traditionally end at the regular season, this includes the postseason. So if your team goes on a run, it does count towards your win total, which puts you in.
Baylor wins the national championship,
we're all screwed.
Yeah.
We're all screwed. We will see how this all goes.
I think there should be we should come up with some type of clause where if there's a Final Four team on the ghost team, we all run suicides regardless.
I like this.
That's fair.
Let's do it. I'm down.
It's either going to be Baylor, Tech, UCF, or
we go to New Orleans on the court at the Final Four. We start running suicides. See how long the first to not get tackled wins.
They can't stop all of us.
Yeah, that's right.
There's too many of them. The Viva La Cats pod takes over New Orleans. That would actually be a fun weekend. Gentlemen, it's time to finish this thing out. We've been here far too long. Steve, I know you got it for us. Mans did the absolute work today while dropping off the kids. Let's go. Hit us with the final ending to the show. The one and only Bearcats Sports Wrap-Up. And before you do, is there a little mention of the guys on the ice in this one?
No, there is not, actually. I'm sorry.
Before we do that, this is the final thing we have to talk about before we get to the Bearcats Sports Wrap-Up. I meant to add this. Officially, the Bearcats hockey team, the men's hockey team, has accelerated to the M1 level, which means they are playing Division I club hockey. Beautiful. Coming up from D2, absolutely deserve it. Beautiful jerseys, great team, playing really tough, really hard every year. Let's hope they can just go to the tournament and make some more noise. Steve,
awesome.
Hit us with that Bearcat Sports Wrap-Up.
Yes, sir. Okay. Starting off with women's basketball. Did you know that the women's basketball Bearcats are also 2-0? Jillian Hayes was named Big 12 Player of the Week this week. She averaged 20.5 points and 11 rebounds per game in 2 wins at Illinois, Chicago, and at home against Delaware State last week. So shout out to her. Jillian Hayes, man, if you're not watching Bearcats women's basketball, you should watch it just for Jillian Hayes. She's a star, and she's going to take this team places. Watch that team. They're good. They will host Davidson, Justin, as you mentioned, on Wednesday tonight as you're listening. So, and they will host Seton Hall next Monday. So watch both those games on ESPN Plus. Get some use out of that ESPN Plus subscription, y'all. Women's volleyball. The Cats traded sweeps last weekend as they swept West Virginia at home before, unfortunately, being swept at Colorado. Cincinnati will host both Arizona schools this weekend at Fifth Third Arena. Taylor Swift night on Thursday as they host Arizona Wildcats. Bear down, and they will host number 9 Arizona State on Saturday. So if you want to see a ranked volleyball team play in Cincinnati, go ahead and head out to Fifth Third Arena on Saturday. By the way, you could go to Fifth Third Arena on 4 consecutive nights this week. You got the women's game on Wednesday night, volleyball on Thursday, men's game Friday, volleyball again on Saturday. So get your Bearcat frequent flyer miles in at Fifth Third Arena this week. Tennis. Zeynep Erman reached the consolation semifinals of the ITA sectional championships last weekend. Congratulations to her. That will end the fall season for the Bearcats. They'll be back in the spring. Those tennis Bearcats will. So get ready to go out and watch them at the Talbot Traybert Tennis Center. And finally, cross country. Cross country also finished their season a couple weekends ago. At the Big 12 championships, Claire Kurtzinger on the women's side and Patrick Kiprop on the men's were the top finishers for Cincinnati to round out the year. Congrats to the entire squad on a great season. Track and field not coming up too far away. So in the brand new renovated Armory Fieldhouse, by the way, if you guys haven't seen that, go check it out. It's beautiful. So, and as you mentioned, Justin, our Bearcat ice hockey team is going to be Club D1 next year. So, while our dreams of the Armory becoming a hockey arena may unfortunately be gone just because they have dedicated it to an already existing varsity team, which good on them. I will always hold out hope for a official D1 men's and women's varsity hockey team here at the University of Cincinnati. So once again, shout out to all those men and women and athletes who wear red and black and bleed just like the rest of us. Bleed Cincinnati, wear this team's colors with pride every day, every week, every month. Shout out to all of them. Go Bearcats.
Go Bearcats. Gentlemen, fantastic show. Absolutely loaded. I think we all did a great job. I'm very interested to see how all of our basketball draft teams perform this season. But guess what? There's a lot of teams to watch this week. So make sure to use that ESPN Plus subscription. Make sure to head to those games physically in person if you're in Cincinnati. Get out there, support your Bearcats. Let's get a win for football, for basketball, for women's basketball, for volleyball. Let's get the whole gamut going. Let's see how good our record can be this week in all the sports for the Bearcats. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me this week. I am Justin Hiles, accompanied by Joel Spencer and Steve Maurer. This has been another episode of Viva La Cats. Shout out to our network, the 1012 Network. Make sure to check them out on Twitter, as well as follow our friends Charlie Hustle. Head over to the website and get some great gear using that promo code 101215 for 15% off your first item. Thank you very much. Viva La Cats. Beautiful.